Nothing like getting your childhood ruined as an adult. Welcome to the Triple Take. I'm Frank.
I'm Manny.
What is a childhood? I'm Joseph.
And today we're gonna be seeing Joseph play baseball and get signed to the Mets.
We could use him.
Yeah, for 73% of a billion. I need money.
So
I'm unemployed.
today we'll be talking about the dark truths of child stars and how the heck we're finding all this out right now, bro. Like, I lived my whole life. One of my favorite shows, I'm gonna start off hot. One of my favorite shows is Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
Ever defined me as a child.
Por favor.
Por favor, bro. Por favor, don't do this to me. But I had to watch a whole documentary of my childhood falling in the depths of darkness. I would never look at the show the same again. Every time I look at these people, that's all I think about. Because I'm just like, I'm sad that I didn't notice. And then it makes it even crazier because now as an adult, now I notice. When I was a kid and like I grew a little older and I would like rewatch the shows, I'm just like, man, I can't wait to show this to my kids. That dream is dead. That dream is basically dead. Maybe I'll still do it and make sure they don't know until they get older. Then maybe their childhood will be ruined all over again like me. But at least I have fun for a
The
while.
cycle continues.
Maybe that's just a Hispanic in me to continue the trauma. Who knows?
But I mean, look, when it comes to childhood stars, how we were talking about cycle, my mom and dad's childhood stars, they fell into the same stuff. Like they were more in the know, whereas we kind of were hidden away from it, and then we find out as we're adults. Because, example, Drew Barrymore, as a childhood star, E.T., that blew up. As a child, apparently, she fell into extreme drug addiction. Robert Downey Jr., young, really young, and he fell into that same drug addiction habit. And we don't know what led them to that. Whereas nowadays, with these childhood stars like Drake Bell, Macaulay Culkin, Jeanette McCurdy, Amanda Bynes, we learned where their craziness stemmed. When we were growing up, we just thought Amanda Bynes was crazy. Let's be real. But then you find out how much she was abused while doing the Amanda show, how she was basically taken advantage of. She was sold, basically, essentially, by her parents to do all this stuff. Britney Spears, holy smokes, man. She is, I remember growing up and I feel bad now that I said that before. I used to think she was nuts. I used to think she was like, a screw was loose. She belonged in a mental wing of the hospital.
I mean, she was, but there was a reason behind it, though.
But there's a
Yeah.
reason behind it. Like
There's a
that
reason behind
whole
it.
like story, these whole stories that are coming out about these childhood stars, man, does it really, you look back on how Frank said on all the things that happened to them afterwards, and you're just like, dang, man, it all connects. And these childhood stars, man, you really have no control over what these projects, these directors, scriptwriters do to you. It's your parents that are basically your agents, essentially. They basically have control over what you do. And then these kids are traumatized and they become what, 14, 15, 16, where they're able to do like things like drugs and alcohol parties. They get exposed to that stuff. And then, it's a dangerous trend. And to see it is unbelievable. It makes me as a kid who used to wish I was in those childhood stuff, like, Drake and Josh, all that fun stuff. I wish I was a reality star in those times. Makes me think back and be like, what was I thinking? What did this come with?
No, you didn't know what it came with. You didn't know you didn't know what it came with.
I mean, at that point, putting their kids through the machine that is showbiz, it's scary. First off, from like a kid's point of view, where essentially those parents are putting their kid through that as if they're a product or service so they could get just the money out of it. Because at that point, before the kid's 18, the parents have full control of the money. You know what I mean? And back then, there was no laws or protective rules. 100% went to the parents. When it came down to the kid being 18, if they weren't a star anymore or they just had X amount of trauma, whether it's drugs, something that got them canceled, something of the sort, that they're no longer a star anymore, that income is completely belonging to the parents, not the actor, and then they're just left to fend for themselves. That has happened way too many times, and it sucks. And nowadays, there are protective laws that actually secure X amount of income to the parents and then X amount of income for the child. So, like, at least they're the ones putting in the work. they should at least have their own foundation for their future. But some parents are really just, they don't treat their kids as kids. They treat them as a service to be used so they could just make money. It
Because
sucks.
it's just greed and pride are crazy things. Crazy things. Because the reason why they didn't have those laws, because in their minds and most people's minds, they're just like, they're your kid. You're gonna take care of them, right? You're just like, oh, okay, we're getting this money, but they're making it. I'm gonna at least try to set them up for their future, aka a college fund, whatever, right? Put that most of that money aside for them in the future. We saw how greed and pride can get in the way of that, and then they treat the money. They like Joseph was saying, they treat their kid as like a service to be used, or they treat them as like a piggy bank. Like, okay, keep making me money, keep going, right?
Mhm.
Like we saw with Jeanette McCurdy. Like she says that she was forced to do something she didn't even want to do. She didn't want to act anymore, but she knew she was the only person making income, so she felt like she had to. You should not be put in that position as a child. Should not be put in that position as a child. Even though it was the best choice in terms of income, the value and the sanity of the child is much more important. Like, why are these kids being exposed to drugs, much of heavy drugs? Because it's different when you're talking about certain drugs that you get exposed to when you're a kid in high school or a kid in middle school, whatever. Like, you're gonna be exposed to things like that, but they're being exposed to hard drugs. Like, I'm talking about like things that no kid should even see if they're like going up in a decent environment. And it goes to show you the amount of supervision that goes along in these sets, in these environments, the parents are actually putting in, or maybe even the parents and the kids are being taken advantage of, right? At the end of the day, yes, I do put most of the blame on the parent,
Yeah.
but I can understand in some circumstances how it could be like, okay, they messed up because they didn't know and they regret it now. But there's some that like, and we've seen it with like Drake Bell or any other, or most of the shows that
Lindsay Lohan, Demi Lovato.
Yeah, where like the parent was just like, yeah, take them, go for it. That's wild. To me, that's wild, especially people, kids that young.
Yep. And then corporations, not to mention only corporations take advantage of the parents because the parents, we're putting a lot of emphasis on them, but they may not know. And then
Exactly.
they had signed something that they didn't really fully analyze, and then boom, their child is stuck.
About that stuff.
For a child star, compared to like us growing up in a normal environment per se, where that perception from that child star, whether it's the attention or the sense that they might make the connection like, oh, I'm being successful at such a young age. They're like, oh, I'm winning. I'm on top of the world. And it kind of skews their perception thinking that they're in power. That's why a lot of more teenager type stars, they think they can get away with a lot when they really can't, such as the whole aspect of, oh, I could try this drug once and they're instantly hooked. Or I could do this crazy thing, oh, really screwed up their life. Which isn't just, because I know we focused a lot on like traditional showbiz, but nowadays in modern times, you don't have to be a part of a show to go viral. Just one simple YouTube video, one simple social media post.
Bro, we bring the boom.
TikTok. Back then it was Vine.
I think now it's a little worse.
Oh, it's probably a lot worse. A good modern example, Little Tay. Remember Little Tay?
Wow, you pulled a crazy memory out.
I did.
Yeah.
And the craziness that happened with her, and then after it got revealed that her mom and brother, mainly her mom, was the whole mastermind behind the mess, and she never wanted to do it. Crazy work. Parenting has its finest. I didn't pay attention to it because like I
didn't. I just saw what angle she was going for, and I was like, that's crazy work.
Didn't she become an OF model?
I don't know about that, but she definitely came back more sexualized than before.
I'm 95. 95.
I'm not sure about that. I can't say for sure. It was a while ago.
You know what? I'm just gonna look it up so that way I could say it, and then we don't have it. Yep. August 4th, 2025. She made $1 million hours after launching it.
So she's basically Bad Baby. Weird, by the way.
What do you mean weird?
She was a child the last time you saw her, and as soon as she dropped the OF, you spend it on, bro.
People are weird.
That's crazy, bro.
Frank, people are weird.
Weird, bro. They did the same thing with Bad Baby, bro. She was a child on Dr. Phil.
The Catch Me Outside girl?
Bro. She was on Dr. Phil, a child. Bro, as soon as she dropped, bro, oh my goodness.
There's all a bunch of stories that like what
was
we
like,
don't know is
"No."
true. This is pure speculation, but apparently the mother had set the whole thing up.
For the OF too?
No, like that was her decision.
Oh,
But
okay.
like the whole Dr. Phil thing, everything like that,
Oh, you're talking
was
about Bad Baby.
it was all set up. It was all set up
I'm
by
pretty
her
sure she
mom.
talked about that. I'm pretty sure
That's
she talked about that
speculation. I
before.
don't know if that's true, but
That's wild.
that's crazy work. That's crazy work that you would want your daughter to be
I mean,
portrayed that way. You know, that decision making of, you know, what they do now is only is affected is a causality of that parent's mistreatment of them in this process
Oh,
of
I'm
them
about to get-
becoming a star. Because you psychologically are not all there. So
Yeah,
decisions that you
you're a
make that are
child.
rash or, you know, have no reasoning behind them, there's this connection to the previous to your previous work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the way Joseph was saying, where these child stars are making all this money, and they think they're that guy, they're that girl now. They're not gonna listen to the people that care about them and are guiding them in their lives, and they're gonna listen to other people that they think that don't have their best interests at heart. That's just a child thing, and specifically a teenager thing that happens.
feed into it. They're agents. They're
egging them on. Yeah, you don't need your parents. You're making all the money.
The other co-stars around them, like
manipulation and man, when they get you alone, and alienation.
So I'm gonna segue back to Hollywood real quick. So opposed to parents or agents or any other corporation, sometimes it's the audience that screws over an actor or child actor. I'm gonna use Jake Lloyd as an example. The guy who played Jake Lloyd, the guy who played the child Anakin Skywalker in episode 1.
I knew it. I knew that.
Phantom
That's
Menace.
exactly who I thought of when you said that. You said the audience.
Yes.
I forgot his name.
That was his first acting role, and you know, it's Star Wars. Like, even to the parents, you know, it's a big thing. It's a big deal. Star Wars is Star Wars. Like, it's gonna be a big deal even if it's a crap movie. It's whatever. At the very least, at least Star Wars, the way that traditional Star Wars productions are, it's fun. Everyone has a good time. They talk about how it's like a family. So I would at least imagine, at least for Jake Lloyd, and doing the job, acting as Anakin Skywalker as a kid, like, was a fun experience up until the movie came out. Because the world decided to trash him. Imagine as a child, or let's say you're 6 years old or whatever, and you retire from acting at 6 years old, to where it left such a mark on him, where he had to go through like trauma, didn't want another acting gig, no one wanted to hire him, ended falling, like, getting depressed, falling into drugs, having mentally broke down to have schizophrenic episodes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the story of the young
And
Anakin
when the movie came
Skywalker,
out, what,
bro.
99 or something? Whatever. Like, now, recent reports since like around 2024, he's been doing better, which is great. I'm happy for him. But the world did him dirty. No one else did him dirty, but the audience did. Which freaking sucks.
To go off of what Joseph just said, Joffrey Baratheon, Game of Thrones, that kid did an amazing, spectacular job. But people, the audience, the fans couldn't differentiate fiction from reality. And this kid, he stopped acting. He had to put himself into a psychiatric ward because constantly he was ridiculed online for his portrayal of Joffrey Baratheon. And he did such a good job that they scrutinized him. People were throwing stuff at him while he was just trying to walk down the street.
Yeah.
A little weird, bro. It's just a show. It's just a freaking show.
And then, no, Joseph makes an excellent point about the audience.
Yeah, he does.
Having their influence on these child stars, because we're talking about the parents, we're talking about the corporations. The viewers hold the same weight towards what happens to these childhood stars. And it's very sad that, you know, these kids, even if they do a good job, how Joseph just said, even if they do in what some people's eyes is a bad job, they're scrutinized. They're yelled at on the street. They're ridiculed. It's insane to I can't even put myself in those people's shoes of just every day with the internet, how big it's gotten. You would see something about yourself on the internet in some negative context, and then you're walking in the street and some other person sees you and they just yell something at you that is not really who you are.
And that goes back to one of our past episodes where I show that when these public figures portray themselves in the public, that's not who they actually are. Especially in acting, like you said. Like, of course, they're not like the person they're playing in the movie or TV show or play or whatever. People have Manny would know this since he's a wrestling fan, but people tend to have a very fine line between reality and fiction. And that's dangerous. But Joseph brought up a great point. I just want to say this, like, we were talking about TV shows and movies, but we didn't even talk about music, bro. Like, you mentioned Britney Spears, but when we talk about Justin Bieber,
Biebs.
the
Dude.
Biebs, bro, that was crazy. That is actually insane. That's like everything we just talked about to a crazy degree. But when we're talking about influencers and kids nowadays, everything we talked about, all people that made money from all their stuff, like they had a great following. But now it's even worse in the sense of, like, even though it might not be as targeted and as bad all the time, there's more volume due to the ease of getting famous through TikTok, YouTube, or to go viral. And it's rare for me to ask a kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say a doctor, a firefighter, an astronaut, president. They say, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a streamer. I want to be, like, it's cool, but eventually I'm going to need a doctor. They're not chasing it because of that's what they actually want to do. They're chasing it because they want fame and notoriety, like the people that they're watching on YouTube. That's not all the time, but that's most of the time.
Mhm.
So, and there comes this obsession with being noticed, obsession with being famous. Being famous for what? Like, it feeds into their mind of oh, people like me. But then when they don't like you, they're getting all that notoriety, even if it's bad, just to continue gaining that notoriety. They level up, they get worse, they keep going, and they turn into terrors of society. They're ruining other people's lives and ruining their lives at the same time. How many times do people get arrested in other countries just because they wanted to do crazy stuff in other countries as a streamer, as a live streamer or something?
A lot.
Bro, and that's not just the younger people. That's some of the older people too that they're not relevant anymore. So they need to do. They're trying to do something crazy. So they do something crazy in another country, and then they get whacked for it. Now they're in a foreign prison for 20 years.
There was one last thing that I wanted to, like, kind of harp on a little bit. Going back to talking about, like, Jake Lloyd and how the audience or the viewership kind of screwed him over. The most heartbreaking aspect of it, even with just like modern content creation, is that if the audience literally destroys a person's career, how are you supposed to hold them accountable? It's just the way that it is. At that point, the audience is literally a force of nature in these people's careers and their lives, and it sucks because sometimes they just needed a chance, and life just never gave it to them.
No, and then this is why I agree with the recent passing. I think it was a recent passing of Florida where kids can't have social media until they're like 18 or something. Is that true?
I don't know if I got fully passed.
Okay, so I at least agree with the fact that I don't think kids should have at least a public social media profile until they're 18. It's just nowadays, there's just too much. A kid can't just make one and not be exposed to some of the dirt that lies there. And then, like, and some of this dirt, like, okay, yeah, they're just learning about life. Like, nah, bro, they should not be learning about this type of life when they're 6 years old. But when you're talking about having an Instagram, especially not a TikTok, because I've seen kids make TikTok videos doing dances and stuff, and some of it's fun, but some of it you're just like borderline, like, hey, yo, you should probably not be doing that, bro. Like, you're way too young to be doing stuff like that. And it leads to them getting attention from individuals that nobody wants them to get attention from. You understand me? And
The creeps.
the creepy creeps, the creepy
pedos.
coopers, the creepy creepers.
The Diddies.
Yeah, the ditties.
Did he or did he not? Did it.
That's crazy. This man's on smoke today. And just imagine how much scrutiny they got when they were child stars, but imagine how easy it is for just a regular kid in 6th grade to be scrutinized and looked at in those types of ways now. Just because, and not even because they made a crazy video. They just say, hey, me and my friends, we're doing a backflip. Could be cooked. for the rest of their lives. And
Yeah.
go through all those all that addiction and all those like all that mental destruction that all these childhood stars went to when they were in films that had millions and billions of dollars in them. So it's just like, and all they need to do is just press play and then put it out free. Nothing but trash from it.
I just want to, my
Gotta be
last
careful,
point,
man.
just want to make it as a notion to the children out there, to the kids that be watching, to the adults. Be a little bit more aware of these childhood stars and the fame that they're getting and the attention that it brings to them, because it can be really harmful to an extreme extent. We've seen this in history too many times where these childhood stars literally are taken advantage of to the point where their lives they become a part of their own destruction. I don't want to see any child go through that. That's a point blank period. So, us as adults, us as the viewers or the consumers of anything of that nature, just be aware and don't harp in on these kids, man, because the kid's brain is a fragile mind and could easily be manipulated and destroyed. So just be aware of that.
If you guys want to have a longer conversation with us about this topic, follow us on Discord, follow us on YouTube. Say it down in the comments. What do you think about all this stuff? What do you think about childhood actors? What do you think about actors in general? What do you think about notoriety and fame as a whole? We are down to talk about it. We're ready to clash ideas.
Copyright strike.
We're also on Spotify, so go give us a listen on Spotify if that's what you do. You don't want to see our beautiful faces, that's fine. You can go ahead and just listen to our voices. Either way, thank you for listening. I'm Frank.
I'm Maddie.
Give it about 3 years. Watch my biopic. I'm Joseph.
Autobiography by Joseph. And always remember, there's a person behind what you're watching. Peace.